We've been discussing A-Rod and the plight of the New York Yankees all morning long, and it's such a juicy topic. The one thing we never really got into is the Today Show interview. Matt Lauer and Joseph Tacopina, the lawyer, who has since been hired by Alex Rodriguez. Unleashed, if you will. And it was pretty good because Matt Lauer presented documents from Major League Baseball that said if you sign this, Major League Baseball will agree to waive the confidentiality clause in the joint drug agreement and let everything be known to the public.
Be great for us, wouldn't it?
Be a lot of fun to get the actual physical documentation. What I took from that was really interesting, though, because not only did Tacopina recommend, under his recommendation, and let's make this clear now, his recommendation would be that with everything he's seen, the evidence he's seen, and Anthony Bosch being the lone character witness, if you will, the lone witness.
All the evidence baseball, in his eyes, is tied to Bosch. All of it. That's what he said.
And he'd say not only would a reduced suspension not be in his recommendation, but a 0-game suspension.
Not 1 inning, he said.
Which is fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating because report from Ken Rosenthal, who's an insider here on Sportsnet, said that as early as April, A-Rod was offered to take the 50-game suspension that everyone else has, and talks into August before the announcement was made by Major League Baseball that a significantly reduced suspension was offered to Alex Rodriguez. And instead, he chose to fight. And you'd have to wonder that with all the evidence that was presented, why did the other 12 guys choose, or the other 13 rather, including Ryan Braun, choose not to fight it, and A-Rod did?
Well, Ryan Braun's situation was totally different. He gets the 65-game suspension. He comes back next year with a clean slate. He's got all this money coming towards him. If A-Rod accepts his, obviously he's a little bit more prideful, obviously. He didn't want to go through the humiliation that MLB was going to unleash upon him. And he's probably thinking, hey, this is my last fight. If he got legal advice that suggested, hey, Alex, this evidence is so thin, and if Bosch is the only witness, if he's the only guy holding the evidence, and if they tell him, give him that advice, that evidence is so thin that an arbitrator might rule in his favor, what's he got to lose by fighting? He goes back on the field.
But what do the other 13 have to lose?
Well, who knows what their evidence was? It could have been different. There could have been multiple witnesses. There could have been different levels of evidence in those cases. We don't know.
Yeah, you make a good point there. You don't know that. But it's just fascinating to me. And the thing is, due process is due process. Mm-hmm. And again, say whatever you want about Alex Rodriguez, but to go through the proper channels and to do things the proper way, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and that's what, ironically, A-Rod is doing that. It looks like, other than the allegations that he's trying to pay off the lawyer, and who knows what that money was intended for. But
the same as Major League Baseball did.
Yep,
tried to pay off Bosch's lawyer too.
Yeah, but right now he's on the field. He's appealing. He's filing a grievance. He's doing all the legal machinations that are at his disposal right now, and he's pretty much saying all the right things right now in the media. And he's just going to wait and see what happens between now and the end of the season when the arbitrator is going to rule. He's going to let his lawyer do all the dirty work for him.
Based on the suspension, if he were to miss games, and let's not forget, money is almost always the number one motivating factor in anything. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're a hockey fan, the Daniel Alfredsson thing will tell you that more than anything.
And don't forget ego.
Ego's huge,
yeah,
but money is usually the number one motivator. And so had Alex Rodriguez accepted any suspension this year at $154,000 a game, and that's likely to go down next year because his salary goes down next year, plus the opportunity to reach home run plateaus, 11 shy now of the 660 hit by Willie Mays. That would put A-Rod fourth all-time and trigger in some bonuses as well. Maybe health-wise, he's not able to do it as readily next year as he is this year. So there's a lot of monetary motivating factors when it comes to this.
What about this motivating? This might be totally crazy. What if Alex Rodriguez genuinely likes to play baseball? What if he's thinking, I'm 38 years old, and this is my last chance to play in the major leagues. I'm going to appeal here, right? I'm injured, clearly. I've been rehabbing. Who knows how many more chances I have to play Major League Baseball at this level.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a tiny part of it.
It's a great point.
Maybe he does actually like to play baseball. Nobody's actually said that, but maybe that was a big motivation for him, is I want to get back to the major leagues and play for another 30 games or whatever, and then let the arbitrator rule whatever afterwards.
I'd be fascinated to hear what his teammates truly think of him. I mean, I think Brett Gardner's statement spoke for itself. I think Joe Girardi's statement in coming out and defending A-Rod spoke for itself. But the goal here is to win games, is to get into the playoffs, is to win a World Series. And if A-Rod were somehow to catch fire and let's say hit his 10 or 12 home runs between now and the end of the year, and all of the statistical evidence in the 12 games he's been back, home runs per at bat have gone down for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Runs per game have gone up for the Yankees.
They're last in home runs, aren't they? No, they're 14th in home runs in the American League, 15th in slugging, and he's hitting .319. He's playing very well right now. He's playing above average third base for them. He's helping them.
And the numbers are going up. I think they're 7-6 now in games that he's played, or 6-6 in the 12 games that he's played. And so if for some reason this guy were to catch fire, he'd be a huge piece of moving them forward. And as a result, who would benefit? Everyone else in the team. Monetarily, you get into the playoffs, it's a payday. And the further you go, the more money you make. And you're looking at upwards of $350,000 a share per player should you win the World Series.
I think at this point, though, they just want to wash their hands of him. They don't care if he's producing like Evan Longoria or Barry Bonds in his prime. They just want to wash their hands.
I'm not so sure because
Really?
you have a month and a half left.
I'm talking
What
about
else are you
I'm talking
gonna
about
do?
management.
Oh, no question. I mean, that's the stuff we haven't even touched on
But
yet.
they're not even that close to this year. They're out of the race. Next year, their prospects aren't looking that great either.
I don't know.
Really? You think they can make a run?
6.5 back in the wild card. That's not completely out of line. Excuse me. Yeah, 6 back in the wild card.
Well, that would be something if A-Rod lifted them back into the contention. Yeah, then
They-
you got a story.
7.5 back in the East. So that might be more of a challenge. But don't forget, 7.5 games back in the East with 7 games remaining against Boston.
Yeah, I just wonder if he can make that much of an impact.
I wouldn't say they're out yet. Alex Rodriguez and Brian Cashman, because of what looks to be a pending lawsuit between the two sides, Brian Cashman says he can no longer really speak to Alex Rodriguez,
Yeah.
which is just fascinating stuff.
It just says all he can say to him is hello because it's too much of a, quote, litigious environment.
That anything he might say may be used against him in a court of law.
Exactly.
Wow.
Or in People magazine.
It is completely wild when baseball history looks back on this stuff years from now to think about what this guy did and how he played through it and how his, whatever the plight of the team might be. It's just fascinating.
How do you think George Steinbrenner's what his take is on this as he's
rolling
watching from
in
down
his
there?
grave. Yeah, he's rolling in his grave.